J-Bone here, and I've got everything you need to know before you watch this weekend's Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And yes, I will be talking about the Max Verstappen to Mercedes rumors that might actually come true, so stay tuned. J-Bone! Before we get into previewing this weekend's Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, let's first recap the previous race, this past weekend's Bahrain Grand Prix, aka the Snooze Fest Grand Prix sponsored by Mattress Firm. Here's the 2024 F1 Bahrain Grand Prix in 60 seconds. Max Verstappen started the race on pole just ahead of Charles Leclerc, who could have been on pole instead if Ferrari had listened to him during qualifying and not wasted a set of soft tires in Q1.
Classic Ferrari moment.
Max predictably went on to win the Grand Prix and achieve a Grand Chelem by winning from pole after leading every lap and having the fastest lap. Charles Leclerc, on the other hand, fell down the order and finished off the podium because Ferrari set up his car like Lewis Hamilton's car was set up for the 2021 Azerbaijan Grand Prix restart. The Bahrain Grand Prix's most exciting battles were somehow all within teams. V-Carb teammates Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo had the biggest clash, with Yuki even dive-bombing Danny Rick after the race because he was so upset with the team orders call. Ferrari's Carlos Sainz aggressively overtook his struggling teammate Charles Leclerc multiple times because he's pissed at Ferrari for replacing him with Lewis Hamilton for next year. Williams teammates Albon and Sargent battled their new Williams steering wheels that kept malfunctioning and even sent Logan off track at one point. And Valtteri Bottas teamed up with his pit crew to win the battle for longest pit stop with an impressively sluggish 52.4 seconds stationary. And that is the 2024 Bahrain Grand Prix in 60 seconds. J-Bone! And going off all of that, here's how my 3 bona fide race predictions fared at the 2024 Bahrain Grand Prix. My first race prediction was that Max Verstappen would win the Bahrain Grand Prix, and ding ding, J-Bone got that one right. J-Bone! As promised, I will now not predict a single Max Verstappen win for the remainder of the 2024 season as a sign of good faith because, let's be honest, that's closer to being a guarantee than it is to being a prediction. My second race prediction was that Charles Leclerc would finish on the Bahrain Grand Prix podium, and he would have if Ferrari had spent less time locking down Lewis Hamilton this offseason and more time making sure their tires didn't lock up. Charles Leclerc being the victim of misfortune at the hands of Ferrari is actually just getting absurd at this point. It's no wonder Leclerc is currently transitioning from F1 driver to musician, the latter being an occupation through which he can turn his sadness and torture into something beautiful rather than something ugly. And my third race prediction was that McLaren would not have both their drivers finish in the points at the Bahrain Grand Prix. And yeah, I was just wrong about that. That puts me at 1 for 3 for the season thus far, which is really bad. But guess what, folks? I'm going to bounce back with my 2024 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix bona fide race predictions by going 3 for 3, 100%. It's going to happen, so stick around until the end of this video to hear them. J-Bone! Next, let's get you caught up on the massive news stories developing in F1 right now, so you're fully caught up on all the F1 drama going on off track before we move on to previewing this weekend's race. The biggest news is Max Verstappen about to leave Red Bull and join Mercedes? In case you've been living with the groundhogs under the Canadian Grand Prix circuit Gilles Villeneuve, you have probably heard all the rumors swirling with regard to Red Bull Racing, Christian Horner, and Max Verstappen. Red Bull team principal and Drive to Survive main character Christian Horner has been cleared of any wrongdoing by Red Bull, but the controversy surrounding Horner right now and the political power vacuum it turned on has caused a ton of turmoil at Red Bull Racing, opening the door, according to reports, to a number of high-up Red Bull team members leaving Red Bull to get away from it all and avoid the ramifications. These team members include the world's best car designer, Adrian Newey, the world's best race car driver, Max Verstappen, and the world's least eloquent old man, Helmut Marko. Newey or Max leaving Red Bull would be sport-changing moves. Helmet, not so much. But obviously the idea that Max Verstappen could leave Red Bull after just winning 3 World Drivers' Championships there and then go and replace Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes is the one dominating tabloids, the rumor mill, and all of our brains right now. This move would be almost as crazy as Lewis leaving Mercedes for Ferrari, and if both of these were to happen in the same calendar year, my freaking brain would explode. I'll make sure to keep you all very updated on this ongoing story. Next up, I'm currently involved in a huge motorsport scandal, and it's time for me to break my silence. As you may have already heard, FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem is currently being investigated. A whistleblower stated that Ben Sulayem attempted to interfere with the results of the 2023 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix by lobbying for Fernando Alonso to be given back the podium finish that was taken away from him after the podium ceremony by way of a post-race penalty. Alonso's podium was eventually given back to him, but it is not clear at this point whether that had anything to do with Ben Sulayem's influence or not. Now you're probably wondering, how am I, J-Bone, involved here? As you may remember, I famously went a perfect 3 for 3 with my bona fide 2023 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix race predictions. Well, in actuality, I went 3 for 3. Then I was sitting at 2 for 3 after Alonso's podium was stripped from him, and then my 3 for 3 was reinstated alongside Alonso's podium reinstatement. And I'm involved in this potential scandal because some people are claiming that Mohammed Ben Sulayem's motivation for allegedly trying to interfere with the results of the 2023 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix is that he read the press release that I put out after my 3 for 3 became a 2 for 3, and he decided to use his influence to intervene because he agreed with me and wanted to see me, J-Bone, have the 3 for 3 race predictions that I rightfully deserved. That is all I will currently be saying on the matter, so please respect my privacy at this time. Actually, screw it, I'll say one more thing, and that is that Mohammed Ben Sulayem is also being investigated for allegedly trying to get officials to not certify the Las Vegas Strip circuit for some yet-to-be-known reason, and I can confirm that I have zero ties to that potential scandal. Next up, did you hear about what just happened in Formula 2? Formula 2 is the series right below Formula 1 on the FIA open wheel ladder, and it serves as a proving ground for the F1 stars of tomorrow. Most drivers on the current F1 grid came up through Formula 2 or through its predecessor, GP2, and there's pretty much a 100% chance that at least one driver on this year's F2 grid will be a Formula 1 driver within the next few years. That being said, the two current F2 drivers being most closely followed this season because of the high likelihood they'll win the Formula 2 championship and or be in F1 soon, Ferrari Jr. Ollie Bearman and Mercedes Jr. Kimi Antonelli, had absolutely awful Bahrain weekends. These two drivers are teammates on Prema Racing, a team normally fighting at the front on F2 race weekends, but not so much this past weekend when they qualified 17th and 18th, and then only managed 1 points finish between the pair of them across both the F2 sprint and feature races. Meanwhile, the boy from Barbados, Stake Jr. Zane Maloney, swept both races and is currently leading F2, which is not super crazy because he's a highly rated driver, but was definitely unexpected. I fully expect Prema Racing to bounce back, especially considering Bahrain has always been a bad circuit for them, but it's pretty wild that the two preseason F2 favorites had such terrible starts to the season. And it's also worth noting that Antonelli, who is a rookie who skipped F3, did beat Bearman, who's more experienced, in Bahrain. If you don't follow Formula 2, this is the season to start because that grid is absolutely loaded with motorsport names that you'll be familiar with sooner or later. As Formula 1 fans, we all love wearing gear that reps our favorite teams and drivers. However, you can't wear F1 gear to, say, a wedding unless the bride and groom are really cool, and that is where my sponsor Indochino comes in. Indochino makes fully customized suits that don't require a trip to the tailor to get that perfect fit. Every suit is made to your exact measurements. You can customize every detail. Create a suit that fits you and your style perfectly with endless customization options so you get exactly the look you want. Just measure yourself at home in 10 minutes or visit a showroom, select your suit details, and boom, they ship you a fully customized suit you can wear right out of the box, starting at just $399, which is crazy for a fully customized suit. I actually went into an Indochino showroom earlier this week to get measured, and it was a super quick and enjoyable experience that I highly recommend for anyone wanting a suit that fits just right. Level up your game with Indochino. Go to Indochino.com and use code FBONE to get 10% off any purchase of $399 or more. That's 10% off at Indochino.com with code FBONE. Get that suit, baby. Now it's time to look ahead and talk about the 2024 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix and its circuit, the Jeddah Corniche Circuit. The 2024 F1 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix takes place Saturday, March 9th at the Jeddah Corniche Circuit in Jeddah, which is a city in Saudi Arabia, which is a country in the Middle East. F1 first began racing in Saudi Arabia in 2021 and has raced there every year since, with the first Saudi Arabian Grand Prix being the highly dramatic penultimate race of the crazy 2021 F1 season, and following editions being the second races of their respective seasons. The Jeddah Corniche Circuit is the fastest street circuit in all of Formula 1 and the second fastest circuit overall behind only Monza. Its signature features are its banked hairpin, the high-speed blind corners you'll find all around the circuit that make it one of F1's toughest challenges for drivers, and the Turn 1 chicane that's played host to a lot of crazy race starts and race restarts over the last 3 seasons. Speaking of race starts and race restarts, safety cars and red flags are a common sight in Jeddah given how narrow track limits are there, so get ready for some chaos this weekend, unlike with Bahrain, which is like the opposite of Jeddah given its huge runoff areas that are not very conducive to chaos. Here are your storylines to follow for this weekend's 2024 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. First, Max Verstappen can make F1 history this weekend at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Yes, we're only one race into the 2024 Formula One season, and Max Verstappen is already on the verge of making F1 history. At the 2024 season-opening Bahrain Grand Prix, Max Verstappen achieved his 5th career Grand Chelem. A Grand Chelem, or Grand Slam, is when, over the course of a single race weekend, a driver is on pole position, leads every lap of the Grand Prix, sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, and wins the Grand Prix. I know it seems hard to believe Max has only done that 5 times ever given his dominance the past 2 seasons alone, but it's very difficult to lead every lap of a Grand Prix given differing tire strategies and the significant gap required to the first driver behind you on the lead lap who's not coming into the pits. And by the way, because I know you're wondering, there have been 68 Grand Chelems in F1 history for an average of less than 1 per season, and the driver with the most all-time is Jim Clark with 8. So how can Max Verstappen make history this weekend in Saudi Arabia? Only 3 drivers in F1 history have ever achieved back-to-back Grand Chelems: Alberto Ascari, Jim Clark, and Sebastian Vettel, and Max has a great shot at becoming the 4th if he can match his Bahrain dominance in Jeddah. Do you think Max can get it done and make history this weekend? Let me know in the comments. Go comment right now, leave a comment, also like and subscribe. Next up, there's some big Daniel Ricciardo drama brewing right now. Hands down, the most entertaining on-track drama we saw at the Bahrain Grand Prix was the absolute scenes going on between VCARB F1 team and their 2 drivers, Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda. Late in the race, VCARB came over team radio and pulled team orders, telling Yuki, who was in P13 and chasing Kevin Magnussen, to let his teammate Danny Ric past him because Ricciardo had faster tires, and they thought that Ricciardo had a better chance of sneaking into a points position. This team orders call made Yuki extremely angry because Yuki was about to pass Magnussen and he thought he was still faster than Ricciardo despite being on slower tires. And after initially refusing to let Ricciardo by, which pissed Daniel off, Yuki ended up letting Ricciardo through, which pissed Yuki off. And after Ricciardo wasn't able to pass Magnussen, Yuki apparently got even more pissed off, so much so that after the race ended, during the cooldown lap, Yuki dive-bombed Daniel Ricciardo while they were driving back to the pits, which was one of the wildest inter-teammate posturing actions I've ever seen. Daniel called Yuki immature, Yuki claims it was a bad call by the team, and we're all left wondering what fallout we will see from this in Saudi Arabia this weekend. Will Yuki apologize or hold his ground? Will Daniel take the high road or fight Yuki's fire with some fire of his own? It's no secret that Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda are both fighting for a seat at Red Bull right now, and I'm extremely here for it if we're going to get a heated season-long teammate rivalry at VCARB with a Red Bull seat on the line. Finally, what's going on with McLaren and Aston Martin F1 teams? Aston Martin was the 2nd fastest F1 team in the first half of last season, and McLaren was the 2nd fastest F1 team in the second half of last season, but as it stands this season, they're looking like the 4th and 5th fastest teams. My first thought here is that this definitely bodes better for McLaren than Aston Martin, as McLaren had god-tier mid-season development last year and went from backmarkers to frontrunners, while Aston Martin started hot and then fizzled out in a big way, meaning it looks like they have an uphill battle ahead of them compared to McLaren for this season. My second thought here, though, is that maybe these teams shouldn't be lumped in together. McLaren cars generally love circuits with high-speed corners, which Jeddah has a ton of, and Bahrain does not. So I'm very excited to see what McLaren do in Saudi Arabia, as I think a top 5 finish is definitely possible, and maybe even a podium? Aston Martin, on the other hand, seemed to be a bit lost at the moment, with Fernando Alonso confirming after the race that this was an expected result for Aston Martin in Bahrain according to their simulations. Aston Martin need to rely on development to be fighting for podiums, and unfortunately, that was not their strong suit last year. You have to think mid-season development, though, is Aston Martin's top priority after they failed at it last season, so I'm not counting them out just yet. Lawrence Stroll is going to get in there and work his Lawrence Stroll magic, probably. Now the moment you've all been waiting for. Here are my 3 Bonafide race predictions for the 2024 F1 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. My first race prediction is that Red Bull will finish 1-2 at the Jeddah Corniche circuit. After seeing what they were able to accomplish in Bahrain last weekend with their 1-2 finish, and in Saudi Arabia last year, where Checo won from pole and Max recovered from P15 to finish P2, I see no reason to believe that Red Bull won't make it back-to-back 1-2 finishes to kick off 2024. My second race prediction is that Charles Leclerc will finish on the podium in Saudi Arabia. Leclerc could have been on pole in Bahrain if Ferrari didn't waste a set of fresh soft tires in Q1, as his fastest Q2 lap was faster than Max's Q3 pole lap. And even after he settled for P2, if it wasn't for Leclerc's car having major issues that repeatedly caused his front tires to just keep locking up, Leclerc would have been on the podium in Bahrain. I am not buying this supercharged Carlos Sainz with nothing to lose, he's gonna go crazy this year narrative that people are trying to sell, and I still rate Leclerc above Sainz for both qualifying and race pace, so I think Leclerc snags his first podium of 2024 in Saudi Arabia this weekend. My third race prediction is that Nico Hülkenberg will finish in the points at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Nico the Freako Hülkenberg legitimately might be the best qualifier in F1 right now, as he just keeps making Q3s in a Haas, and it's a shame that he collided with Lance Stroll at turn 1 on lap 1 in Bahrain, which necessitated a front wing change for him, ruining his race, with race pace being Haas's #1 priority this year and Nico in top qualifying form. I think Hulk lands in the points in Saudi Arabia, especially after seeing how Haas looked like the clear-cut 6th fastest team in Bahrain, and when you consider how Saudi Arabian Grand Prix tend to get chaotic, anything can happen, maybe even Nico in the points. And last but not least, here's my prediction for the top 5 finishers in the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix with zero reasoning nor explanation. P5, Lando Norris, P4, Carlos Sainz, P3, Charles Leclerc, P2, Checo Perez, and P1, Max Verstappen. Freudian slip. Leave a comment with your 2024 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix race predictions, and if I like them or hate them, I'll respond to them. But before you comment, remember to subscribe and then help me get this video to 1,000 likes by tossing it a like. Special shout out to my top YouTube channel members: Joe Max's #1 hitter Snow, Snapple Facts, Brian Linton, Daddy Fett, Wolf Loves Racing, and David Hake. Mash that join button just below this video to get your name shouted out right here in future videos, as well as a bunch of other awesome perks for less than $5 a month. And make sure to tune into my live streams right here on YouTube if you want a shot at a channel membership being gifted to you. Until next time, folks, J-Bone! J-Bone!